My name's Alan Wills. I'm from Birmingham, and my father was a Far East prisoner of war. My father's name was George Wills.
I'm Christine Wills, and George was my father-in-law.
He joined the army, the Royal Artillery, in 1940. He was taken prisoner of war on February the 15th, 1942, when Singapore fell. And from that he went to various camps, suffered like every other free POW did, I'm afraid, but came out the other end of it in 1946, a good man. When he first joined the army, he went to various camps. He went to Bristol, Southend, and then was called, well, the ships came in then to, I think it was Southampton they went from, and took them away. And Dad said he knew it was something big where they'd been taken to, because they had so many escort ships, aircraft carriers, battleships, but then they landed at Singapore, where they weren't treated very well by the Singaporean people. They seemed to hold him in contempt. Dad said they settled down to that. Then, of course, the Japanese came in, and Dad had been told that the Japanese soldiers were peasants who would probably be carrying broomsticks and such like. And he said when the Japanese came across the bridge, he said, my word, were they a fighting force? Battle-hardened soldiers on these tanks. There was mass panic. They knew the Japanese were coming. So Dad kind of said to his mate, he said, oh, let's just sit here. So they just sat down, and Dad said, well, they're not getting these. They threw their arms in the Singapore River, just so the Japanese couldn't get them. And that's what happened there. And then, of course, they came in, I took them prisoner then. Marched up the Bukit Road, up to Changi. And the irony there was, our son lived in Singapore and lived on the Bukit Road. So in effect, we came full circle. He went to various camps. He was at Changi, was in Thailand, and the one he went to mainly was Kin Sayak Pass. That was the worst camp he went to. Kin Sayak Pass #1 was awful, and they had to. The ground was gelating, and they had to blow holes in the rock, and this is where the hammer and tap comes in, because Dad was on the hammer and tap. And the hammer and tap is about a 3-foot chisel where one free POW holds the chisel and another one with a sledgehammer hits it. Hit, twist, so they can put the explosive into the rock. One of the biggest risks was when the chisel flowered over. If a piece flew off, hit your leg, you get sore, you get ulcers. So he was on that. They were treated quite cruelly up there, but Dad said not every Japanese was a wicked man. A couple of examples he gave, there was one particular guard who used to walk around and say, I'm a Christian, put his hand in his pocket and give them 2 bits of food. I'm a Christian, have some food. He had to do this surreptitiously because the officers would have seen them, but the Koreans were particularly cruel, and they had a habit of sitting on a 30-foot rock and dropping stones on the heads of the prisoners of war, killing them. Or they would shout the equivalent of fire in the hole. I don't know what they shouted, fire in the hole, but set the charges off before the soldiers had time to move. And that said 2 of his colleagues were just blown to smithereens. Some of the Japanese were very, very cruel, but it's mainly the Koreans Dad found. He was sunk on one of the hell ships. The Kachidoki Maru was a hell ship, an American ship that the Japanese got hold of. And there's what they put in the holes. But the captain of this hell ship was very compassionate. And he said they could come on the deck so long as they don't cause any trouble. So you got the machine gunners there to make sure there's no problem. And then there were torpedoes, and it was the USS Pampanito. And Dad said, you hear this thud, and then the plume comes up, thud. And they knew they were going down, and there was a Japanese nurse had a death grip on the railings. And Captain Pearce, who Dad was with, who had tremendous admiration for Captain Pearce, I saying to her, jump. She's there with this death grip. And Dad said, oh. And they just grabbed hold of this nurse and threw her overboard. Whatever happened, she was going to die. She'd been sucked down with the ship. So as they went into the sea, Captain Pearce said to Dad, he said, Wills, he said, you go over there and I'll go and sort that boat. There's some problems in one of the rescue boats. And so Dad swam off to this piece of flotsam, and there's a man on there, and I think his name was Ken, and he came from Lancashire. And I said, hello, Ken, how you doing? Hello, Brummy, how are you, mate? And they chatted this, do you want to come on? Yeah, okay, come with you. And that said it was almost like afternoon tea. And they're on there for 44 hours, right? Watching the sharks eat the mates who couldn't get in the boats, all the horrors of what went on there. And Dad said the only one thing he wanted to do was to go home, have a cup of tea with his mum, and come back. But they saw this smokestack, And they were very lucky because it was a Japanese warship. Some of the Japanese warships had actually been machine gunning the prisoners of war in the water. So they didn't know this at the time, obviously. But Dad came, and Dad's naked, all his clothes had gone off him, he's covered in this thick oil they have on ships. They go on the ship, and the first thing they hit Dad with a rifle butt, and they wipe your feet. And then Dad was taken over, I think it was to Sakata in Japan, where he spent time at he was lucky he spent at the Mitsubishi car factory. Towards the end of the war, they had not too bad a time. We'd been to Singapore before, but never travelled, only as a stopover to Australia. But when Mark being our son, when Mark took us along the Buckseema Road, it seemed very strange, didn't it? Knowing that at one time Dad had marched up there. Like Dad at Kinsark Pass, we went down there, and I stood at these holes, and I thought, that could be my dad. A very strange sensation, but one I wouldn't have missed.
We went to Changi 2 years ago.
Went to the chapel, didn't we?
Yes. I'm a trustee of COFIPO, Children, Families and Friends of the Far East Prisoners of War. And we'd had a visit from Rachel from the Singaporean Museum, and they wanted to borrow some of our artefacts to put in Changi. So we actually, when we went to visit our son, we took them with us. I mean, the museum now is beautiful. They've done a really superb job of it.
We're very lucky because when Dad came back, he was a gentleman and a gentleman at the same time. We know that other people have had very, very bad experiences when their fathers came back of bullying, abusing people who've driven Japanese cars. But my dad, he used to say to me, he always said, I remember what he said, son, he said, never let hatred get to you. It's like a cancer that eats you away. Yeah, Dad's sitting by one of the barracks, I think it may have been Changi barracks, and he's having a bit of a go about the Japanese soldiers. And he felt this presence, you can imagine, he felt this presence and standing over his Japanese officer. And so Dad, of course, up he gets, bows from the waist as they're required to do. And the Japanese officer said, why are you talking so badly about the Japanese? So Dad thought, I'm going to beat you anyway here, so I might as well say. And he told him that he said that they were treating unnecessarily cruelty, they weren't fed enough. And then this officer said, I lived in England for 15 years. And then the conversation went on. I'm not quite sure what happened then. The conversation carried on, and they started talking about roast beef dinners. And they sat down, Dad reckons, for half an hour or so, chatting about England and his experiences. And eventually he left him and he just said to Dad, be careful. Someone else might hear what you say. And so this is why Dad could not hate people. Because how can you hate a man like that who comes up and warns you not to talk about the Japanese, but he's Japanese himself? Dad was never a Christian as such, but he had Christian values. So he was very forgiving. I mean, you found this, didn't you, Chris? He was very forgiving. Doesn't mean he wasn't affected by it badly, because he had so much illness when he was out there. And the equivalent now of PTSD he had. I think it was called nervous debility then. And that really was it, because he didn't talk about it. He was bottled up. What I did, because I heard about the Kachadoki Maru, which is the hell ship he was sunk on, and various other situations, I contacted the Imperial War Museum. And I said to them, I believe he has a story to tell. And they sent this wonderful Yorkshireman, and he came to the house, and he said, I'm going to interview your dad on tape, etc. And I said to him, how long will it take? He said, about 45 minutes to an hour. So we came back after an hour, and I walked in the living room, and he's going, get out, get out, get out. He just got Dad settled down enough to talk about his 4 hours of tapes we have. That's how I got to know the information on Dad. It's strange, I mean, Dad's been dead, 17 years now, and to listen to his voice again, it's quite a melodic voice, and to listen to that voice again, it's nice, nice.
I have no strong feelings about the Japanese at all. We've been to Japan and we found the people absolutely delightful. From my experience with our members, I personally feel it depends on A, their father's story, and B, how they were treated by their father, whether they can forgive or not. I asked someone if they would like to come to this event. He actually said, I'm sorry, I remember the scars on my father's back. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I can't hate. It's just not in me. And those words about hatred eating you up like a cancer have always stuck with me. Why should I hate someone 2 generations down? And also I've got Christian values. We're both Christians. We have those values. So I just think forgiveness is everything, really. But I have nothing to forgive because my father suffered.
And I always remember what he said, that he's seen the best of men and the worst of men, but he would never have missed it for the world.
A very special man.